Everybody.
Hey, hey, happy
Hello.
Monday.
I just saw you doing a little shoulder shimmy, Deanna. You're
It
in
was
for
a
Amy here this
head
morning. Yeah,
thing, okay? Isolated head.
We had
Just kidding.
a beautiful weekend of weather. The question is, can you do it again, John Hanson?
I will certainly try here today. Today's going to be hot. It's going to be sunny. Let's take a look outside if we can. And what's interesting today is we're going to get to near 90 degrees, maybe over in some spots. But we don't have much humidity, so it's kind of a dry 90, if you will, with abundant sunshine throughout most of the day today. Some passing clouds coming through here and there, but just sunny and hot, but not too humid, so actually not that bad. Our sunrise almost to the earliest point as it can be at 5:14 this morning. But let's take a look at the next 7 days. Okay, so those storms tomorrow and rain on Wednesday, that is what is left of tropical, what once was Tropical Storm Cristobal, making its way up the Mississippi River. Most of the heavy stuff, at least as of right now, is going to pass to the west. They're going to get really significant rainfall in parts of Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, and northwestern Wisconsin. For us, we might get a half inch of rain, but if this thing moves a little bit to the east, we might be getting more rain than we expect right now. So you see those temperatures will fall tomorrow as Cristobal makes its way towards our area. But once that sucker is gone, we are left with a nice few days, a cooler few days by the time we get to the weekend, with highs struggling to get into the 70s, but comfortable and sunny after we get over this little hump in the road. So hot today, rain the next couple days, and then really comfortable stuff in Cristobal's wake.
That's absolutely
That's
perfect. I
exciting.
keep telling people we need comfortable like 70, 80 so we can sit outside more. We won't want to sit outside if it's 90 or plus.
But I think we're getting used to that 90 plus because when was it? Saturday night? It was kind of chilly. I had a sweater on and it was like 70, it was like low 60s. I'm like, what is going on
It
Yeah.
here?
is so weird how we get used to things, and then it's like, oh, 68, I better put on my winter coat again.
Right.
Okay, guys, let's shift it up, mix it up here, and get to our top stories. The first story of the day: the former Minneapolis officer accused in the death of George Floyd heads to court this morning as Minneapolis City Council calls for the city's police department to be disbanded. Now, more than half of the council pledged to form a community-led safety group, instead saying the police department can't be reformed and the current policing system is broken.
The feds are sidestepping Buckingham Palace, using an international treaty to get testimony from Prince Andrew in the criminal case against Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Epstein was set for trial on sex trafficking charges before he died by suicide in prison back in August, but prosecutors are continuing the investigation. Prince Andrew, who was longtime friends with Epstein, has been accused by one of Epstein's victims of sexual abuse.
Chicago parks west of Lakeshore Drive are reopening this morning as the city relaxes restrictions tied to the coronavirus pandemic. That includes Grant Park, Lincoln Park, and Harold Washington Park. Many neighborhood branches of the library also opening back up to the public with new restrictions so guests can safely practice social distancing. We had another good weekend of numbers in terms of cases. Obviously, 1,000 new cases a day, just under that for Saturday and Sunday. That's still a lot of people, but when you compare it to what we were getting in the previous couple of months, and the positivity rate under 5%, under statewide, under 10% in the Northeast region, still continues to be on the right trend. And guys, I was even looking at the metrics for phase 4. We were all itching to get to phase 3. Everyone's already looking to phase 4, which includes a lot new expansions, groups of up to 50 people together in some sets. Still a couple weeks away, but the entire state right now looks like they're on track, including the Chicagoland area.
And then, of course, calculating the increase in testing.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting too. I was reading a report how certain libraries are, spacing out their computers, putting limits on how long people can be in the library, common area. And I think it'll just take a little bit to get used to. Now, I know we say phase 4, 50 people, woo, can't wait to go to the bar and the gym and stuff like that. But at the same time, like Felicia said, testing is also going to be increasing, and we still have that danger of this pandemic going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And speaking about the pandemic, what is, going on with antibody tests? So the CDC right now is working on finding answers to many questions about COVID-19, including if antibodies produced by the virus can protect people from getting it again, or from, just experiencing those dramatic symptoms once more. Now, there are commercial tests out there right now to test people that have them. One local center here in Chicago is offering that test, so I went to check it out.
We all want to know as much information as we can, and that's kind of the basis of our COVID-19 test.
Meredith Fritz is the general manager of Loom Wellness, a center in River North that offers everything from booster shots to IV drips, even cryotherapy to help people keep their immune systems healthy and strong.
It's a place for you to check out and be alone and stay in tune with yourself, and then also make sure that your body is functioning properly, which is more important now than ever with COVID.
That's why Loom added the COVID-19 antibody test to their service menu at the beginning of May. The test looks at two antibodies in your blood, the IgM and IgG. IgM is found in the blood and lymph fluid. This is considered to be the first antibody we create when fighting a new infection. IgG is said to be the most common antibody found in the blood and other body fluids. This antibody protects against bacterial and viral infections, but can take time to form after an infection. All right, guys, I'm going to try out the COVID-19 antibody test. I should get my results in 10 to 15 minutes, so let's go. All it is a simple prick of your finger. The blood is then drawn, and the next step is waiting for your results.
It is 98% both accurate and sensitive.
With a steady flow of people coming in to get their COVID-19 antibody tests, Fritz says they're not going to cure or diagnose clients. Their goal is to just provide more information.
These are mainly people who haven't had any symptoms, so it's not diagnosing them. It's curiosity that's really bringing them in.
Fritz tells me there's a variety of different antibody tests out there, but this one in particular is waiting for emergency use authorization, or EUA. It allows the FDA to fast-track approval for medications and tests in the event of a nationwide health emergency.
We aren't saying that we have an FDA-approved test, but it takes time for all of that to happen. We're just trying to give access to information to people.
Well, there you have it. So I took the test, and results are super quick. I got them in like 10 minutes, and it was negative. Okay, so I was speaking to the general manager. She was saying people who typically test positive are those who are around the virus more, right? So think nurses, think doctors, essential workers. They're the ones who perhaps have those antibody builds or building up in their body. But John, you were mentioning that you know some people that are essential workers that got the antibody test and still tested negative.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, right? Most tests, when you go in for a medical test, you hope for negative results, of course. The positive news, if you get a positive test, means that you were either asymptomatic and you most likely cannot get it again. So yeah, a lot of people I know that are in those fields as well testing negative. It'll be interesting to see as scientists continue to gather this data of the antibody test. What they're looking for is something called herd immunity. They want to see the general population eventually reaching parts where 50 to 60% of us have tested positive for the antibody test. That just shows that that would be a good sign in terms of preventing second waves, third waves. And most of the studies show that while more people have had coronavirus than maybe we know about, the antibody testing numbers are nowhere near those herd immunity numbers.
I just feel like, though it's still so soon, because you were mentioning, Deanna, that this has to be FDA approved. It's not FDA approved right now. So there's a chance that people can get false negatives or false positives. So you're not 100% sure necessarily what you're walking around with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things, Felicia, great point, that you will see on the CDC, on any health website, where it says these antibody tests are not necessarily 110% accurate. But everyone at Loom Wellness was telling me if we do have people that test positive, we encourage them to reach out to their family members, reach out to their friends, whoever they came close in contact with, just to let them know. Again, you just don't know. And I don't think you want to take that risk right now in terms of what is going on exactly with the antibodies. But I guess just the information, right, that we have up there. And if we can get the full screen up here too, we have here at Loom Wellness a ton of other things to stay healthy, right? So it's COVID-19 and beyond. You have the IV drip, which I think I'm going to go with my mom to get some immunity boosts there too. You have the cryotherapy, like I mentioned, and all these other things that'll keep you healthy and strong throughout the year.
Let me know how the IV drip goes.
I'm excited.
I wanted to ask Deanna, and you might have mentioned this in your story. I looked away when you got the finger prick. Is this open to anybody? Is there any restrictions on who can get an antibody test right now at this facility?
Only, so I don't know if you guys noticed, they do take your temperature walking in. If your temperature is a high temperature, then they will reject the service, and then you have to come back at a later time. Or obviously when you don't have, kind of flu-like, or not flu, fever-like symptoms.
Right, because obviously if you have fever or flu-like symptoms, you might in fact have coronavirus and you're not going to get, your antibodies haven't built up yet. So
Right,
two
right,
different
right.
tests,
So
very important to know the distinction.
yeah, temperature is key here.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, thanks a lot, Deanna. Science, ever changing right now. Everything seems so fluid. To help you deal with all of that, we actually have Dr. Stacey Lot. Dr. Stacey Lot is a therapist, and she helps work with people who are dealing through this difficult time. As we know, there's so much going on. We've got economic instability, the pandemic with coronavirus. Of course, we have all the protests that are going on right now. So you need a little help to try to manage that situation. We've got Dr. Lot joining us now to help break down some things that we can do to regain focus, regain clarity, and stay grounded during this time. Dr. Lot, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, yes. So what are you seeing? Good morning. And what are you seeing in your patients right now?
A lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people are just reaching their breaking point at this time, and there's just so much going on. People don't really know how to cope.
Do you have a lot of new patients now that you maybe haven't seen before? Are people becoming more aware of some mental health issues or just anxiety, depression, whatever it may be, compared to before all this went down?
I'd say it's been pretty steady. I think we're also still trying to get an understanding with the community to reduce the stigma to ask for help in general. I think a lot of people don't even know where to turn.
Dr. Lat, one quick question, because I know I worked on a mental health story in terms of essential workers, like before all of this kind of happened, before the protests, really early in the COVID-19 pandemic. And the person that I interviewed was mentioning that these essential workers don't have the time right now to think about their emotions, to think about their feelings. So, you know, as hard as it is to say this, there probably will be an increase of people who need help later on when everything kind of calms down a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually really unfortunate that people are not necessarily putting their mental health at a priority right now. And I know that everybody is busy and everybody's got so many things to worry about and to focus on. The problem with that is that the more you don't focus and actually start doing self-care and paying attention to your mental health now, the worse the problems are going to be down the road. So you're right. A lot of people are going to, as things start unwinding and people start going back to work and things start smoothing out, people might be able to take that time to actually ask for help and to get that. It's just so important right now to be doing it in the midst, because when people are under extreme amounts of stress, they aren't thinking clearly, they aren't responding effectively with relationships, they're not able to actually be as effective in their jobs, etc. So, you know, my personal suggestion would be to find that time to at least do self-care at home, or be doing some practicing of mindfulness skills, etc.
I think one of the things that makes people a little uneasy with everything that's going on is the lack of control. I mean, when we look at what's going on with the pandemic, or what's going on with the protest, or what's going on with whatever's happening in your world, you feel out of control. You feel like you don't have any control over the situation and you can't make it better. How do you not only monitor those emotions, but also gain control when you have no control?
Well, that's a really good question. I think the first piece is the self-reflection piece, like taking time each day to actually pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And a really good tip to that is using some mindfulness skills to check in with your body, because anytime your body is uncomfortable, that means something is wrong. It might be that you ate something wrong, but a lot of times it's not really based on a physical reaction to like food. It's more about the stresses and the thoughts that you're having. So paying attention to your body and doing some self-reflection. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And can I gain any control over this? So for example, you know, one way that people can at least feel in some level of control is for when they go back to work and they're washing their hands or they're wearing their mask, doing things that help build at least a level of purpose and sense, whether it's volunteering or giving back to the communities that are struggling with, you know, the civil unrest and things like that. So there's little things that you can do, and even gaining control over what you're choosing to do in order to regulate your emotions, choosing to structure your day, choosing to put in at least 15 minutes even to just practice deep breathing and do that self-reflection.
I wanted to ask about, look, obviously people think that sometimes they can tackle their mental issues on their own, and maybe they can. Maybe they're able to do that. Or they think, it's just an emotional thing. I'll be able to get through this. Mental things that happen with inside our brains have physical manifestations too, right? Like stress can impact you physically down the road and give you, dangerous situations in terms of your physical health too.
Yeah, it's a necessity for people to be paying attention to this as it's happening, and not just putting it off for a later date in order to take care of it. I mean, the level of physical reactions and consequences to stress can be huge, high blood pressure, heart problems, you're not going to be sleeping, which reacts with your brain. There's a lot of things that are happening to our bodies. I mean, even sexual dysfunction, not being able to have good, circulation in your body, energy levels, being lethargic. So there's a lot of things that stress does, and not to mention just, again, the way that we respond to our relationships. And, relationships are a huge part of our lives. And whenever our relationships aren't healthy or we're not communicating properly, we're going to have even more stress. And so, yes, it's important to be doing things on our own and to be doing basically like homework each day to take care of ourselves and do self-care. But there's a time where you need to ask for help from other people, from professionals that can actually help you look at what you're thinking. A lot of times we struggle with that. What am I actually thinking? What am I actually feeling? And people can help you, especially treaters that are trained in that, can help you actually determine how can I reframe this, or what can I do different? Am I catastrophizing versus is this something that is real?
Now, Dr. Lot, one question that maybe is too soon to ask or to have the right answer for, you said, reaching out to health professionals who can give you these types of resources. Can we foresee local government kind of putting more, I guess, attention, more resources out in the community where perhaps, like you said, the communities need these mental health clinics, they need these resources? Can we see something in the future if this becomes, something that everyone is experiencing?
I mean, that's my hope. Ultimately, I know, even I heard that Mayor Lightfoot was going to be putting some grants into place for people who are underserved. I know that at Clarity Clinic, we're going to be working to promote getting some treatment, whether you have insurance or not, being able to give back to the communities. So, my hope is that all of the private practices and organizations are going to be willing to give back and to actually help, because, there is such a stigma against it. And I think we rely on our leaders to promote this. And I had heard Felicia the other day talking about her own mental health and getting therapy. And I think that's really important for, people like y'all who are in the public light to really promote that there's nothing wrong with asking for help, and it's okay to be vulnerable.
I just want to point out that Felicia did a raise the roof move. I don't think we were able to see that when you shot it.
Raise the roof for mental health. Help me not go crazy, doctor. No, we poke a lot of fun at it, but I just think it's so important. It has empowered me so much, and I try to be vocal about it because I think a lot of people of color especially don't accept the help or seek help or don't have access to healthcare. One thing I did want to talk about, and one of our producers said they're praise hands too. Yeah, they are praise hands. I'm raising the roof and praising my hands. But I guess I have a question about PTSD. Is this something that your profession is going to be looking for, Dr. Lot, given, hopefully we'll be getting past all of this sometime soon?
Yeah, I mean, that's a definite concern. I mean, there's so much going on right now, and it's all happening at once. And trauma is real, and people are experiencing trauma related to this. I mean, whether it's related to the anxiety about COVID and our health, whether it's related to the economy and our families, whether it's related to the civil unrest, and just in general, all the things that are happening. These are not normal experiences that people should be expected to cope with. And so as we continue to go through this, people are going to experience trauma, and they're going to have long-standing results or consequences that are negative that they're going to need to be treated for.
I think a lot of people, that stigma has been changing over the last few years, which is good. I think it continues to change now. And the access to telehealth sort of sessions are an important part to break down maybe one more barrier of people feeling embarrassed to walk into an office. Are you guys offering telehealth right now? And how has that been going? And do you see that as something that maybe happens more in the future?
Yeah, we're actually pretty much only right now doing telehealth sessions. We plan to continue that. The insurance companies have actually allowed that to be a lot more accessible. They've extended through many of them through the end of the year to allow for people to utilize telehealth, which in the past has not necessarily been an option. I know with Clarity Clinic, we plan to continue to do that. I mean, this has become such a convenience for people. And like you said, it allows for some anonymity and not having to walk in or even taking the time, because, you know, going to a place takes more time than just potentially the hour that you're there. So we're definitely planning to continue this. And I think many places will continue to do it as well. I mean, I think that right now, one of the positive things that has happened through COVID has been that it's pushed technology forward faster than I think it would have been in other instances or other times in our life. So I think this has been really good for allowing people to receive therapy that might not have.
Yeah, and also maybe they're more comfortable to share stuff from their comfort of their own couch than they would be face to face. Well, Dr. Lott, we appreciate you for jumping on today. Let's get the information up for Clarity Clinic and how people can reach out. Facebook, Instagram, and of course, or excuse me, Twitter, and the website, ClarityShy.com. Dr. Lott, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
care.
Dr. Lot.
Bye.
Bye. These are conversations that we need to be having. Seriously. Like I told my dad the other day, I think, Felicia, it was right after a work meeting we had. And I was like, I think I'm going to take advantage of the therapist. And he goes, are you okay? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's those types of conversations that I think are super important to have with your parents. Right. And my parents, Latinos, perhaps never had the, ability to seek help like that, perhaps have never even talked about how they're feeling. So I think it's really important and interesting to see what your parents have to say.
Yeah. And I guess I want to tell people that you don't have to be level 10, out of control before.
Right. I was like, Dad, I'm level 2. I'm 2. Okay.
Like, I'm doing okay, but I think I could do better if I had someone to talk to, someone professional that could give me tips, Love it.
I'm into that.
So we have so much coming up at 10 a.m., you guys. My friend Jonathan Swain is joining us, and he is one of the owners of Kimbark Liquors. They got hit by the protesters and looters. I shouldn't say protesters. I should clarify looters. It was some people stealing, but they have a really great outlook that they want to share about everything that's happened, and they're working to reopen their business as well. They've been in a Hyde Park community since the 70s, so it'll be really good to hear from them.
Mikkel Welch is joining us, friend of the show, and talking about being a Black designer in these times and what that's like. He's had some great messages up on his social media pages. Looking forward to chatting with him.
Yeah, and then last but not least, out of all the guests we have, of course, we have Bree Specific, who is an on-air talent from Power 92. She's going to join us, millennial media personality. Just interesting to see how different realms of media are experiencing what's going on in the world, too.
For sure. We'll see everyone at 10 o'clock.